Okay. Well, I'm Susan Berta, co-founder with this guy, Howard Garrett, and executive director of Orca Network, and happy to be here on our 10th anniversary. So I'm just going to talk a little bit about the history of how Orca Network and this place came to be. And I'll start by just saying some things are just meant to be. And I knew when I met Howie that we were just supposed to be together in some way for some reason, and that I've never felt anything so strongly. I just knew it. I still get goosebumps when I say that. And it was just the weirdest feeling. And of course, he was talking about Lolita, and he had crashed a meeting I was doing when I was coordinator for the beach watchers about the orca captures. And I was new to all of that and had no idea that there was still one survivor in Miami. And when I found out about it, I was there. I'm on board, and how can I help? And so.
We said, marry me.
First
it was get on the board, and then
yeah. Well, first it was like, okay, give me the Keiko Barbie doll that Bonnie Gretz had given him, and then I'll be on the board. No. There's a few other things in there we won't go into, but a few other things happen to happen. Anyway, but I knew that there was just, sometimes you meet someone and you know that it was meant to be. Call it fate or whatever, but there was just some reason. So here we are. I'm glad I listened to that gut feeling most days. and I'm just amazed at what has taken place in those 30 years now. And I know, I think, though we didn't quite succeed in bringing Toki back, we got really close. And we found out this year, even in Toki's passing, that her story and her spirit is still, and maybe even more so, inspiring and motivating and engaging people, and moving them to work to save her family. And it's moving us to want to work even harder to save her family. And that's what we've been about all along, and we're going to keep doing it. I often say most of our programs and things we've done have happened by accident, or call it fate if you believe in that, and I do. Good thing Richard's not here. He doesn't believe in astrology or fate or those things. It's not science, but if we had that Paralympic lobe like the orcas do, we would have another word for it probably. But we've just been so blessed by so many opportunities that have shown up, and just been in the right place at the right time, and had the ideas or the vision and the community and the people who have shown up to help us to fulfill those visions and ideas, to help the whales of the Salish Sea. And Orca Network has become so much more than we ever dreamed was possible. So the sighting network, which has grown to be huge, and for anyone who was here this morning, got to hear Elisa talk about that. It actually began before Orca Network was born, and when I was still working for beach watchers at the Admiralty Head Lighthouse, and I realized that I could see the orcas swimming past in the fall and the winter. And I would tell Howie and his brother Ken Balcom at the Center for Whale Research, oh, the orcas are down here, the southern residents, and they're swimming up towards you, or they're swimming towards Seattle. And then Ken would give me names of researchers in Seattle, and then he would tell me, then I got hooked up with NOAA. But the main thing I was doing was just calling a few of my volunteers who I knew loved orcas and would want to go to the shore to see them. So I would call those people who I knew were orca lovers, and whoever was in that direction that the orcas were headed, and say, hey, the orcas are out there and they're headed your way. And this was the dark ages before I had email. I mean, this was a long time ago. I have a few more gray hairs now. And, so then I actually got email and started emailing people, and my list kept getting longer of people who wanted to know when the whales were going by. So it just kind of accidentally turned into this list that kept getting longer. And then people wanted to know even after the whales had gone by, because sometimes they'd be around for a few days. So I started just sending out a daily email about all the whales who had gone by. This was before digital cameras, and we didn't have all the photos and everything. So I would just be sending out kind of a daily email about all the whales. Now we have a list of over 16,000, 15, 16,000. That is just huge, long, full of photos and videos. But that's how it was born back in the late 90s. Then the stranding network started kind of the same way. When I was at Beach Watchers, Matt Klope, who worked at NES Whidbey then, he was the sole stranding responder for all of Island County. And NOAA hadn't really set up stranding networks then. So I knew him because he taught our Beach Watchers class. He did what Gary just did today, would talk about pinnipeds for us. So he knew I would always go collect bones for him and do stuff. And so when an interesting thing like a gray whale would wash up, he would always call us, and he knew we would want to come and help and learn. So when this big gray whale washed up at Lagoon Point, we went to help and ended up deciding to take the skeleton, which is now hanging at the Coopville Wharf, and that really created the start of the Stranding Network, which for a while was a partnership between Beach Watchers, and then when Orca Network started, it was the two of us working together. And then Beach Watchers went through some changes and decided they didn't want to continue on at the point when NOAA started their formal Stranding Network agreements, and we took it on as Orca Network to be the letter holder with NOAA. So now Orca Network runs the Stranding Network, called the Central Puget Sound Marine Mammal Stranding Network. And most of the specimens in here, including Maxine, our harbor porpoise, who was discovered to have B-cell lymphoma, which was quite rare, and provide a lot of the educational marine mammal education for us. And I can't talk about our Stranding Network without bringing out Jill, who has been a huge help, in Sandy Dupernell, who we unfortunately not that recently, now it's been 2 years, who did an incredible amount of work, from helping clean bones and wade through gorp and gray whales, and to being our archivist and doing so much that we're still running, trying to keep up and make up for her loss. But that was also kind of accidental, and we're still doing it. And then education is a part of everything we do in every program. Hi, you guys. And that's something we learned early on in Miami when we were out trying to teach about Lolita in the corner of, Miami Beach, leafleting about Lolita, and people are like totally non-responsive. And you're trying to educate people who have no reference and no perspective and no knowledge of wild orcas. So we realized we really need to educate about Toki's family for them to understand the social and, the community that she comes from. And then when Toki's family started to fail and we lost so much of their population, and they got listed under the ESA, we knew we had to do a lot more education about the southern residents and their need for salmon. So that's a big part of everything we do in all of our programs. And then came time for Orca Network to have our home. Everything we had done up to then was mainly, we had our annual events where we actually got to see people. In the early days, we used to have monthly events at the fire hall for a while, but then we got too busy for that. And Blackfish came out and we got way too busy. But we did a lot of online things, and our sighting network was online, but we didn't have a lot of in-person interaction. But then came the Langley Whale Center, our wonderful, delightful, happy place, our home, where this beautiful celebration has been happening all day, thanks to Katie and Trevor and Lucy and all the wonderful Whale Center staff and Donna volunteers. And it's just been such an amazing trip these last 10 years, up the street, down the street, towards the water. But thanks to Fred Lundell, our board member, on the Langley Main Street, Marie Lincoln, and the community of Langley, who had this vision of Langley needs a whale center. And Langley really has become Whale City. And I credit Fred with a lot of that, and the Whale Center really helping create that. But it just was this vision of, we need a whale center. And we're like, yeah, sure, that sounds fun. Let's do it. And, before we know it, Fred has a building that we could afford on our very meager budget then. And it was, it was small, but, we did it. But, through all of that, and our staff and volunteers and our two managers, starting with Wendy Sines, my sister, and Katie Watkins, my spirit sister. And we've been blessed to educate in person year-round to tens of thousands of people. But starting with that little idea in a small, leaky, shared building that enabled us to start slowly and small and beginning to get our feet wet, so to speak, literally sometimes, and our heads, because that building leaked from the roof. We've had other buildings leak from the floor up sometimes, and some leaking oil from the floor. But we were able to grow, and then faster and faster. And we couldn't be prouder of how far we've come, and the commitment and talent and passion and dedication shown by all our staff and volunteers who have made this dream come true. It truly does take a village, and this village by the sea has made this happen. And we're just so proud of everybody. And now we have people come from all over the world to see us. And we have people, some who have come, like from the UK or Germany, who come because they know Orca Network virtually, and they actually come here to meet us and see us and engage with us in person. And then some who are just on the island who are visiting, who just stop by and go, oh, this looks like an interesting place. May have never thought about whales before, but come in and then leave a dedicated whale nerd just like the rest of us. So, just all that people have done, and the expansion of the exhibits and the gift shop that enable us to keep it free admission, which I just love because that keeps it accessible for larger families or people who maybe can't afford to pay to come in, and we can keep it accessible for all, and that's so important. So I think of the Whale Center as being like a shiny diamond of Orca Network, because so much of what we do is virtual or unseen to most people. But the Whale Center shines a light that refracts and glistens off of all of our programs, shining brightly on the work done by the sighting and stranding and education programs through wonderful educational displays, and coming soon through our Toki's Legacy exhibit, which will be at the entrance, which we're so excited to be working on through a grant from the Washington Maritime Heritage Foundation. These past 10 years have gone by so fast, yet in some ways those early days in the tiny building on the corner seem so far away. Wendy did so much to bring us from our very simple, humble beginnings through 2 moves, recruiting and training many volunteers to keep us going. We were able to hang on through COVID with window displays and virtual tours when Wendy and Katie was on as assistant, and they were ready to switch roles, and Katie was going to come on as manager, and COVID hit, and we're closed, and we're open for a few weeks and closed again, and finally we were open again. Wendy was finally able to retire. Katie was able to take over as manager, has charged forward to bring our attendance up back to what it was pre-COVID, upgraded displays, including the incredible mural in the kids' room, which is so cool. And, the gift shop and the web shop, and I'm sorry, Trevor's not here because he's really just, the tech side of things with the web shop and the gift shop that we've all just looked at and gone, oh God, how are we going to do that? And he did it. And it just keeps going and growing, and we just can't say how proud we are. I can't say that enough. And to all the staff and volunteers, it's just incredible that we are where we are. We're closer to the water. And, I kept saying, well, maybe we should move one more closer. But after hearing Richard Gammons talk about sea level rise, I think we should stay right where we are. We don't want to move any closer to the water. I don't think we need to move again. So I'm really so proud and happy that our happy place is just so wonderful. And I can't wait to see where we are 10 years from now. So I want a big hand for everybody who has helped make this place what it is. You guys, all of you guys.